Hello everyone, Blueknight here, and welcome back to another Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time video. So here lately, I've been playing a lot of Crash Bandicoot 4. I mean, what Crash Bandicoot fan isn't right now? Because this is honestly the best Crash Bandicoot game ever made. At least in my opinion. But it's also the hardest Crash Bandicoot game ever made. I mean, I've been playing the game ever since I got my PS4 last month, and I've only made it to 91%. It's really hard when you're trying to go for 100% or 106%. With time trials, perfect runs, crates that you can easily miss on your first times through, it's just really hard. But that's not what today's video is about. It's about what Activision just dropped today concerning Crash Bandicoot 4. And that is, the game is coming to the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X/S, and the Nintendo Switch on March 12th, which is next month. And honestly, I was completely shocked to hear that the ports were releasing this early, because if you guys remember the Insane Trilogy, it released on the PS4 initially in June 2017, and then all the other ports were announced in like March 2018, and then those said ports released in June 2018, which was a year after Insane's original launch. So seeing Crash Bandicoot 4 getting ports this early, not even a year after the game's initial launch in October, I was not expecting. So yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting that. I mean, I was expecting something after Canadian Guy A dropped a zipper emoji again, because every time that happens, I know, okay, 24 to 48 hours after he posts this, something's dropping for Crash and or Spyro. And sure enough, this happened the very next day. So with that aside, I should mention that the PC version is not releasing next month. Instead, it's releasing later this year via Battle.net. Battle.net is a gaming platform service for Blizzard Entertainment, which is part of Activision. And honestly, that sounds a little bit weird, because Battle.net is for mainly online games like StarCraft and even Warcraft, while the Crash Insane Trilogy was released over on Steam. So I'm not completely understanding why Crash 4 is not releasing on Steam, and instead they opted to go with Battle.net. I mean, I understand a little bit, because Battle.net is already part of Activision and Blizzard, so maybe it would be easier to incorporate it onto there rather than Steam. Yeah, okay, I obviously don't have any ever better excuse to even come up with. So, let's go on to the specs that we got for the ports. The next-gen ports, which are the PS5 and the Xbox Series X/S, alongside the PC ports, will run at 4K 60 frames per second, with the PS5 version taking advantage of the 3D audio, as well as the DualSense's haptic feedback and adaptive triggers. And here's what the PlayStation blog had to say concerning the DualSense's haptics. Feel the DNA change in objects hit by Neo Cortex's blaster, and feel the grip of Tana's hookshot. That's kinda all they really say concerning the DualSense haptics being used in Crash 4, but that already sounds pretty awesome. And speaking of the PS5 version, if you already own a PS4 version of the game, like I do, you will get a free upgrade to the PlayStation 5 version. And going back to the frame rate, the Nintendo Switch version will be able to run the game at 1080p docked and 720p in handheld mode, which is pretty much the standard for most Switch games. And just like the Insane Trilogy, the Switch port for Crash 4 will run at 30 frames per second. And we also got some screenshots to compare the Switch and PS4 versions. The Switch version obviously has darker lighting, I would say, and of course a different shader style. It's kind of like cell shading, not quite like Sly Cooper cell shading, but it appears to be more cel-shaded rather than the PS4 version, because, you know, this is the Nintendo Switch we're talking about, so the graphics are obviously going to be compressed a little bit. Well, in this case, they're not really compressed. They were just redone for the Switch version, at least to my understanding. As for the prices for the ports, we have two different price points, one for the next-gen ports and the other for the Switch and PC ports. The Switch and PC ports will be $39.99, which is cheaper for what the game normally runs about for all the other consoles, which is $59.99 for the PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and the Series XS ports. And me personally, I wound up getting the PS4 version for $35. So yeah, I would definitely be getting the Switch version because it's just $5 more than what I initially paid for the PS4 version. And one last thing I should say, because it's really the last thing I have to say concerning the ports, the totally tubular skins are available to those who buy the game digitally. That was already being applied to the PS4 and the Xbox One, and is going to be true to all the other systems as well. And while I'm talking about Crash, instead of making another video about these two things, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it right now. I'm sure you guys heard about the canceled Crash Bandicoot TV show. I'm not really sure who canceled it, Amazon or Activision, but apparently the long-rumored Crash Bandicoot cartoon that we talked about multiple times here on the channel apparently got semi-leaked over on Reddit. One of the people responsible for the show posted over on Reddit some details about the show and how it got canceled. Apparently it was just one joke, which honestly didn't really make a whole lot of sense because one single joke could easily be rewritten. I mean, I can go over how many times there had to be script changes to Invader Zim, or even edits, because of disapproval by the network. I mean, there was this one time where Invader Zim was going to have a parody of the Game Boy Advance, and Nintendo didn't like the name, and they said they would sue if they did not change the name. But that's just an example of what I mean. If it was just canceled for one joke, it could have easily been rewritten. But then I heard that there was disagreements between Activision and Amazon, and a whole other can of worms that I don't think I need to get into for this video because I'm sure you guys already know all the details by now. But anyways, some footage dropped as well as a concept book, and concerning the footage, here are my thoughts. And don't blame me, I'm a little bit more critical compared to some others out there, but I'm a little mixed on how this show was going to be, especially Cortex's design. Cortex's design just doesn't resonate well with me. The rest of it looks good. I mean, the rest of the show screams Looney Tunes because of how energetic it is, but I think it's a little bit too much because there's so much stuff happening, and I don't know, I just don't feel comfortable with it. But other than that and Cortex's design, I just wish they would tone down the energy levels a bit and fix Cortex's design. I mean, it's canceled, so they're probably not going to do that anyways, but you know, that's just my take on it. And then there's one other piece of news concerning Crash, well, kind of indirectly involving Crash. Vicarious Visions, who were the development studio responsible for basically bringing Crash Bandicoot back from the dead, with the Insane Trilogy as well as their participation with Skylanders Imaginators. Well, they got merged with Blizzard Entertainment, and basically what that means, they will not be heading any games whatsoever from the Activision side. Instead, they are just going to be helping make current Blizzard games. At least to my understanding. I'm not entirely sure on how it all worked, but apparently all the people that worked at Vicarious Visions, the Vicarious Visions name is lost. Instead, everybody who worked at Vicarious Visions is now working at Blizzard. So that really leaves the question, who's going to be developing the next Crash and Spyro games? I mean, Toys for Bob just finished up Crash Bandicoot 4, and I'm sure they got their hands full on either the next Spyro or Crash Bandicoot 5, because Vicarious Visions can't do it anymore, even after releasing the Tony Hawk Pro Skater remasters. So that really just leaves Toys for Bob and Beanox to develop future Crash and Spyro games. And apparently, Toys for Bob, like what this video was mainly about, they're releasing the Crash 4 ports later this month. I don't know if Beanox had any part in helping with the ports, but Beanox, with the hinted Wumpa League game that is coming out who knows when, I have reason to believe that Beanox will be developing that Crash game. I don't know if Wumpa League is going to be a CTR sequel or what. All I know is, if it's a spin-off, I feel like Beanox are going to be the ones developing it, while Toys for Bob will be developing all future main series Crash and Spyro games. And I'm honestly hoping for Spyro next, because, like I said before, we're getting so much Crash that it feels a bit saturated, and I'm kind of getting burnt out on Crash. Maybe a year break on Crash, but given that Activision's 5-year deal ends this year, I have a feeling we're going to get one more Crash game. I almost guarantee it, before we even get to see Spyro. And honestly, it just feels a bit unfair for us Spyro fans. especially since the Reignited trilogy came out in 2018, with Spyro popping up in 2019's CTR Nitro Fueled. It just feels like he at least deserves a bit more spotlight, rather than getting overshadowed with Crash all the time. But anyways guys, that's going to be about it for today's video. It actually turned out a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, but I just thought, okay, I'm talking about Crash anyways, so I'll just go ahead and sum up what's been going on with Crash recently. So down in the comment section below, be sure to let me know what you guys think about the Crash Bandicoot 4 ports coming later this year, and which versions are you going to be picking up. Be sure to leave everything down in the comments section below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell to stay up to date on all things Crash Bandicoot. And once again, thank you all so much for watching and the support. I've been Blueknight, and I'll see you guys back here next time.